Men ask me what it's like to pump all the time at work. I'm like, why don't you pack up your coffee maker in the morning, bring it to work with you, put it in a duffel bag, walk down the hallway, go into a small little closet, take your clothes off, set up the coffee maker, brew the coffee. But if you forget the filter of the coffee beans, you can't actually brew the coffee. Then you're going to start leaking coffee from your nipples. Then do that 2 or 3 more times throughout the rest of the day. Bring the coffee maker home with you at the end of the day, wash all the parts and bring it back with you and do it all over again the next day.
Welcome to Second Act Stories, a podcast that looks at people who've made major life and career changes and are pursuing more rewarding lives in a second act. I'm your host, Andy Levine.
And I'm Andy's co-host, Scott Merritt. So we're going to start off a little bit differently today. We need to issue a disclaimer because we are 2 men talking about a delicate subject for women, but overall a delicate subject for workplaces. And that is new mothers pumping breast milk at work. So, Andy, why don't we ease in slowly?
Easing in, here we go. So our profile today focuses on Patrice Meagher, a senior executive who left a very lucrative career in corporate real estate to launch a startup called Milkmate. This new company helps employers address the needs of new mothers and makes their return to the office as trouble-free as possible. Now, related to this interview is the Pump Act of 2023, which Scott is going to tell us about.
Sure. As soon as I heard about this interview, I did a little bit of research. And according to the Pump Act, all companies over 50 employees are now required to provide both a break time and a private space that isn't a bathroom for female employees to pump milk at work.
So we're going to start out speaking with Patrice about her career in corporate real estate. She moved from her hometown of Philadelphia to New York City in 2007, right before the economic downturn of 2008. She took a job with CBRE, one of the largest commercial real estate companies in the world.
Post any sort of downturn, you're forced to work a little bit harder and you're forced to learn things and really be a perfectionist at your market knowledge. Mm-hmm. And when things are flying high, you don't really need to do that as much.
Right, it's easy.
I knew that I was good at sales. I knew that I was good at representing landlords. I knew that I was good at leasing out space, but that had all happened in Philadelphia. And so when you switch markets in commercial real estate, it's really hard. And so I just basically went back to the networking game and sort of got in front of anyone that I could. And that's how I landed at CBRE.
You worked there for 15 years?
About 15 years.
Talk about those 15 years.
We had done millions of square feet worth of leasing, and we had also represented a lot of tenants and done a lot of history-making deals throughout Manhattan. And so it was an amazing ride. We worked on 2,000 square foot deals, 2 million square foot deals, did a lot of leasing for smaller owners, bigger owners, anything that you can sort of think of, and all throughout Manhattan.
What did you like about working at CBRE in corporate real estate?
I mean, I love sales, right? You're representing space, so you're giving tours of space, you're giving tours of buildings, and as part of that, you get to help create the redevelopment plan of an asset, right, to bring it to market. And so I really felt like I was involved in the life of a building from cradle to grave, right? From the beginning of when you develop the marketing plan and the redevelopment plan and the leasing out and actually leasing it out and sometimes even helping to dispose of it. But in doing that, you're also meeting all different types of tenants, right? All different types of businesses. And I loved meeting all different types of people. And so it was interesting all the time.
I want to transition a little bit, and it's particularly relevant to your story. At some point along the way, you and your husband decide you're going to have a family.
Yeah.
And you currently are the mother of 4 kids.
Yes, correct.
And talk about
what happened
the
then.
Challenges of being a working mother, and also
how long do you have?
How this led you to Milkmate.
When I had my first son in 2009, I was given 12 weeks maternity leave. I was still breastfeeding when I returned to work, and so I needed to pump. In order to continue breastfeeding, you need to pump breast milk while you're at work, while you're away from the baby. So when I came back to work, I asked my HR director where I should pump. Most women at the time were also told to pump in the bathroom. And so I'm sitting in the bathroom pumping breast milk for my child, which is unhygienic, embarrassing, not sustainable. I make it 2 days pumping at work. What happens if you don't pump? Your milk supply goes away. I didn't want to stop breastfeeding. I didn't really think there was any other choice, right? I mean, I could sit in a room and negotiate a deal with 10 men, but I didn't really think it was okay to raise my hand and say, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. I just sort of went on with my life. And that was only 14 years ago.
And just to get this is you have a child in 2009. You get 3 months off, basically.
Correct.
And you get back to work, and you tried pumping milk for
2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days and said, this isn't going to work. I can't do it.
And then if you don't pump, your milk supply goes away.
Right.
So,
right.
So major pain point, but kind of went on with my life. And fast forward to my other 3 kids, the laws had changed. Our space had been renovated, but I still had to walk up, 3 flights of stairs through a whole bullpen of men just to get to the room and realize I forgot one part. And if you know anything about pumping, if you forget one part, it doesn't work from an engineering perspective. And so if you forget one part, it becomes a whole domino effect of issues, meaning like you can't pump. And then now you're leaking milk, and now you're late for a meeting, and now you're running to buy baby to get the extra part. And so it's a whole chaotic issue. And so I definitely became obsessed with how to navigate being a working parent, right? Because it was really hard for me. And what I used to always think is, if it's hard for me, what about others? Because I've got a great partner. I've got 4 healthy children. I have childcare that comes to my house every day. I have awesome in-laws. And so I have everything in my favor. I loved my job, and I still couldn't make it work. I still was drowning. So if I can't make it work, what about the people that do not have the odds in their favor?
So this idea was brewing in your head for a while, it sounds like.
Yes.
But in March of 2022, you leave your job. Was that a tough decision to leave your job and launch Milkmaid?
Yeah, I mean, making that pivot was the hardest part of the entire thing. And what really happened was that I was thinking about it for a long time, and 2019 was a very successful year for our team, but I was struggling personally because I was commuting, I was working 15-hour days, I was juggling working for my children and making sure their lives were in order, and I was drowning. Things were falling at work, things were falling at home. And so in 2020, I had made the decision that I was going to try to scale back to think about things. And my last day in the office was March 6, 2020. A week later, everything changed. So I became a teacher a week later. But it was during that time, during COVID, that I was able to start doing the research and development around whether or not this was a viable idea and product.
Patrice started meeting with engineers and patent attorneys, and a product emerged.
So the Milkmaid is a turnkey pumping solution specifically designed for the workplace. So what that means is we are a hospital-grade multi-user pump that we had cleared by the FDA. What that means is that it's safe for many users to use. It's a closed system. There's no ability for cross-contamination. And it comes with one-time use, pre-assembled, pre-sterilized, ready for immediate use parts, so that when the woman comes to work, she brings absolutely nothing with her at all in order to pump. This is a wellness amenity paid for entirely by the employer, and it also includes any of the necessary furniture to outfit the room. We white glove install, we onboard, we provide all the software that's associated with it, we provide inventory management for the parts so that they never run out of parts, a service agreement, a warranty, and a long-term relationship with the employer.
For those that have been nursing mothers returning to the workforce, you understand this scenario. But for our male listeners, here's Patrice's description of the situation.
Men ask me what it's like to pump all the time at work. I'm like, why don't you pack up your coffee maker in the morning, bring it to work with you, put it in a duffel bag, walk down the hallway, go into a small little closet, take your clothes off, set up the coffee maker, brew the coffee. But if you forget the filter of the coffee beans, you can't actually brew the coffee. Then you're going to start leaking coffee from your nipples. Then do that 2 or 3 more times throughout the rest of the day. Bring the coffee maker home with you at the end of the day, wash all the parts, and bring it back with you and do it all over again the next day.
What has been the feedback from
users?
Early clients, both users but also employers?
The feedback's been awesome. We did a full research project before we even went to market, where we had women that are currently working in Manhattan and also HR directors that were currently working in Manhattan, all different industries, come in, and the women use the pump. They told us their current at-work experience, and then they told us what they felt about this. The feedback was so overwhelmingly positive that we were almost worried. And we got FDA approval in March. We started implementing and installing in Manhattan very soon after in the spring, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive.
How many clients do you have at this point?
We are installed around 10 to 15 locations right now, but we have a lot in the pipeline right now, mostly Manhattan-based, just because we want to be here. We know the real estate market here. We want to be boots on the ground. That being said, we have a lot of potential customers in other markets. We just installed on the West Coast yesterday. Wow. So we're growing.
So in the middle of your doing this, the nursing or the Pump for Nursing Mothers Act comes into law, signed by Joe Biden right at the end of 2022, I think.
Went into effect in April 23.
Did you know that was coming? Or I mean, I imagine that's a nice boost for your company.
100%. If you were around 50 employees and above, you had to provide this private separate pumping space that is not a bathroom. It just sort of lined up with everything that we were doing. I mean, people ask me a lot of times, do you wish you did this pre-COVID? And I'm like, no, because we're designing for a post-COVID world. Mm-hmm. We're designing around return to work initiatives. We're designing around regulation, around recruitment.
So getting a little more personal here.
Yeah, sure.
Contrast your life before, when you were working at CBRE, and your life now as the CEO of Milkmate. How's it different?
I would love to say that it's super different to all the working moms out there, but there's still a lot to juggle, right?
You're still working really hard.
I'm still working really hard. Our mission is really to empower women to do what they want to do, right? And give them the tools in order to do that. But as my children get older, there's new issues and new logistics that enter into that. And so hopefully in the future, we will be tackling other issues that working parents have to deal with. But we're looking to perfect the at-work pumping experience first. And I have a little bit more flexibility when I work from home and can strip out the commute sometimes. But I'm still working really hard.
What advice would you give to someone who is thinking about leaving a corporate job and starting their own business?
If you believe in your idea, if you believe you're the right person to do it, then you should just do it. Because a lot of times I think you also think that everyone else in the world knows how to do things. And then once you start doing it, you realize that
nobody knows.
No one knows. It took me a long time to make that pivot, though.
Have you solved for yourself, found the balance between doing an exciting job and also being a good parent?
I'd love to answer yes. I think the answer for it probably is a lot of the fact that I try to be in a lot of places at once because that's where I want to be. But I'm inching closer to it.
What do you hope Milkmate will look like in 5 years?
I hope we're a household name. I hope that we've changed the life of the working parent forever. And I hope that we have other products aside from just the pumping experience that help make the life of the working parent better.
Well, Andy, thank you again for finding an incredible, inspiring story. You just seem to be the king of digging these people up and putting them out there. You just never know what's going to wind up in our inboxes. I mean, entertainers, lawyers, authors, chefs, we've interviewed all of them. But the founder of a breast pumping startup, that's new, and I didn't see it coming.
I don't think we're going to be repeating this topic for a long, long while.
Well, regarding the interview, I do have a couple of questions I hope you can shed light on.
Go ahead, fire away.
Well, it sounds like Patrice left a very time-consuming, challenging job for another time-consuming and challenging job. Is that right?
You are reading that correctly. But I think there are really two big differences between her first job and her current job. In the work with Milkmate, she has the luxury to work from home and completely makes her own schedule, and I think that's a big difference. Number two, it's different working for your own company. I think you understand that, Scott, running your company, and I have as well. So it's just a little different situation that way.
That's so true, but neither one of us in our companies ever needed government approval for anything, and Milkmate required FDA approval. So, as we know, any product that requires the government to intervene in order to be approved to sell faces a massive uphill climb. Did Patrice have any sense of what was involved in that?
She went in completely blind, but to her credit, she surrounded herself with really smart people who understood the process, engineers, patent attorneys, other people. And she was able to get this done in pretty rapid order. I think from start to finish, it was about 18 months to get this product approved.
It takes 18 months for somebody in the government to just open an email from me. That's amazing.
Yes.
So, but now she surrounded herself with all these experts, and they're not free. So she must have some sort of funding.
She raised $5 million, completely raised from family and friends, and that's what she's using to start up Milkmaid.
Completely from family and friends. Like, I don't think that everybody that I know has $5 million if they put it all together on one table.
Well, Scott, you just need better friends is what you need. You can't change your family, but better friends.
I'm not going to argue with you. Well, on that note, it's probably time to start wrapping things up.
Okay. Well, listen, thanks to everyone for listening to episode 145. If you like what you're hearing on the podcast, we hope you'll share second act stories with friends and family, especially friends that have a lot of money. And we hope you'll hit the subscribe button on whatever streaming service you listen to us on.
Now, before we go, I don't want to lose the opportunity to talk about the fact that Andy recently delivered a TEDx talk on the art of the second act. Now, all that information was based on 145 episodes of learning and inspiration. So once that's online, we will definitely make sure to share it with everybody listening. And I think it sounds like it was an amazing experience, right?
It was a lot of work in a very short amount of time, but I'm really glad I had I've always wanted to do a TEDx talk, and it was really an honor to be chosen to do this. So I think that's it for our episode today. We hope you'll keep listening. There are more second act stories just around the corner.